Hey, it's me again, Michael, your favorite agile thought provoker. I'm in the middle of my series on team models, and today I got for you the team performance model of Drexler and Sibbet. It was introduced already in the 90s, but the last version is from about 2009. And there's even a great sketch talk on YouTube where Drexler explains the model in quite a lot of detail, and I also suggest that you check this one out. But I'll have my own explanations, hope you're gonna like them. First, we have nothing. So we need to figure out why should we even have a team, and that is what the Drexler calls the orientation phase. And in the orientation phase, our main concern is really why. Why are we going to do this? And a lot of teams, they struggle with this why question. They just get assigned to work, but they don't really know why this work is important and what is really different after they have achieved their mission. So this is what Drexler says is the first thing. After it's clear why are we doing this, we should get into trust building. And now we start to answer the question, who is on a team? When you are building a team, then people might have experienced each other before, they might not have, at least they probably haven't experienced working with each other in this exact constellation. So we need to figure out who's actually in the room and what can we expect from each other and what are people like. After we have clarity on the who, we need to discuss what are we actually going to achieve. So we have to define the goal for our team. And this is centered around the discussions of what. We need to be clear on what we want to achieve together as a team. And finally, we can get into the so-called commitment stage, which is when it starts to make sense to discuss how are we trying to work together. Now this is just half of the model, and before I go into the next half, I want to make a bit more explanation on this part because that's really the basis for teamwork. In the orientation phase, we start with a team that may not have any understanding of why they're even supposed to be a team and why they exist. So we need to have a discussion on what's our purpose, what's the identity of the team, and what does it mean for me to be a part of this team. When people didn't have this discussion, they are disoriented, they become uncertain and fearful of what is going to happen, and to have this clarity allows them to move forward in a much better way. Then we go into trust building to make sure that people have mutual regard for each other, that they can be forthright with one another, and that they can see that we can rely on each other. If we don't have the discussions about who is on the team and what are my team members, what kind of person are they, how do they tick, we get cautious about one another. We can't trust each other so well, and we might put on a facade to look better than the others, but that doesn't really help us. And when we don't resolve those issues, we might be falling right back into the orientation phase. So we need to try and move forward here in a positive way. And once we've gone up to build some basic trust within the team, we can go into goal setting to provide some clarity, create a shared vision, and make things explicit regarding what we are trying to achieve, what's our mission, what's the purpose of the thing we are doing together, and make those things clear for everybody. If we don't have that, and it's also been my personal experience, people are rather skeptical of why is this important. I don't see the point in doing this. They don't really care, they're a bit apathic, they fight with one another over meaningless details, and that is not a good place to be. And the cause could be because we didn't build enough trust, but it could also be because they're not yet clear on the what of the team. Once why, who, and what are clarified, and that is what too many people skip, clarifying those things, we can go into the how of the work, that is into defining what are the responsibilities of people, who takes which role within the team, how are we distributing the work, make some key decisions up front, and define how we are going to make decisions within the team. And if we don't do this, there will be continuous dependence. For example, dependence on the team leader or management to make decisions. There will be resistance to the decisions that are being made. And all those things might get us back in full circle. In the worst case, when we find out that we haven't clarified those things, we go full circle all the way back to the beginning. And we're not really making progress, because up to this point, we haven't delivered anything yet. And the interesting thing about the model is that as we are going from here all the way to down here we are constrained. Here we have a lot of freedom. So we are reducing degrees of freedom to create certainty, stability, and enough comfort for the team to become a performing team. Once all of that is done, we can get into that, what teams are actually built for in order to actually implement something. And during the implementation, we are really concerned with who's going to do what, when, and where. That is to define the content of the work, the order of the work. In that case, if we use Scrum as an example, let's talk about the backlog. Let's do a little bit of refinement. Let's do the first planning. Let's make sure that we can actually build something. And then we get into the part that is interesting, and that is the team's performance part. Ideally, the team performs very well, creates a kind of wow effect in the context that we know why are we doing what, and how are we going to do this, and what's the content of our work, and then we just do it and deliver something to create some excitement. And excitement both within the teams, we can do this, and in the surrounding organizations, wow, they're so fast, they're so good, they're performing really great. Finally, we get into a renewal stage, which is where we ask the why question again, but this time we ask a different why question. And the why question in this case is, why should we continue? Why should we continue as a team in this mode, doing more work on the things that we are currently working on? It's a good question to ask in a retrospective. Doesn't it even make sense to keep the team like it is? Do we need more people? Do we need fewer people? Do we need different people? Do we need a different product? Do we need a different direction? Do we need a different process? If we say it makes sense to continue the way we are doing, that's great. But if we forget to answer that question, we fall into stagnation very fast. And this process here, to move from the commitment to the implementation to performance, can be very fast, especially in Scrum. That should be happening within a few hours. And the renewal stage is at least something that we should be asking maybe once a quarter. Ideally, we can already ask this after our first sprint, and we continue doing work like the way we currently do. So that's Drexler-Sibbet in a nutshell for you. If you like it, please subscribe, leave a comment, get in touch, and look for further models coming up. Enjoy.